All right, welcome everyone to our weekly wellness class tonight. We are going to be answering the questions tonight. What is the microbiome? Why is it important? And what are some ways that we can support it? And so let me just bring up my PowerPoint and share it with you. And I want you to feel free to pipe in here tonight as we talk. My name is Debbie Gordon. I will be your facilitator tonight as we talk about some information, and I hope you will be active participants because I'm sure that we can learn from each other how to better support our microbiome. And so these are the questions that I find most often asked online with regards to microbiome. And I think this is a really timely topic, and we've got some really great shares at the end that I'll share with you. But what is the microbiome? I find it interesting that our bodies have about 70 trillion cells, only half of which are human. I find that quite fascinating, and I've never really thought about it like that. The other half consists of bacteria, fungi, viruses, probably some spores, lots of potentially helpful microorganisms, as well as some potentially not so helpful microorganisms. And so we refer to all of that as our microbiome, and we are looking for what will help improve or help strengthen our microbiome so that we have a strong immune system. Microbiome discussions have largely focused on gut health, and that's only one avenue that we need to address. Our microbiome is a remarkable invisible organ that's really gone largely unattended over the past several centuries. And no one really thinks about it. No one really takes care of it. No one does any routine exams or tests for it. And so this is a unique challenge that we are addressing tonight. Our microbiome has largely been ignored, and we now know that that has been a mistake. And so, for example, studies show that when we use an alcohol-based mouthwash, that it disrupts the microbiome in our oral cavity or in our mouth, and subsequently affects our sugar and carbohydrate metabolism, putting us at risk for blood glucose concerns. I find that particularly fascinating in lieu of what I have been experiencing over the past several months. In September of last year, I was diagnosed with a elevated hemoglobin A1C. Let's just call it that, shall we? And I've known for many years that I was at higher risk for this, having been diagnosed in 1991 with PCOS. So I knew I was at high risk, and I really thought I was managing that really, really well. And last September brought other news. Now, I'm happy to report today. So if we take a look at September to July, today is July 25th. I'm happy to report that as of today, as I met with my doctor, my numbers are improved finally. And I'm so, so grateful. And let me tell you that when the stress of that has been so heavily on my mind and body, it's been an interesting day today since I got that news that lo and behold, my blood sugars have been down today quite nicely where I would want them to be. But my blood glucose levels are down, my cholesterol levels are down, the plaque in my veins is down, and everything looks so much better today. So Robin, Dana, you've known me for a long time. You've been on this journey with me. Good news today that I am so, so grateful for. Now, when we take care of our oral cavity, if we are using an alcohol-based mouthwash, we probably want to ditch and switch that, okay? Knowing what we know now. Consider doing an inventory of all our wellness lifestyle habits and consider making changes where it is needful. I will share my story tonight a little bit more, but our nutritional intake is important. We need to consider smart supplementation. We need to look at a wellness lifestyle involving also exercise, rest and sleep, managing our stress, and reducing our exposure to toxins. It is likely that all of us could do a little more of ditch and switch. With me, it was with my nutritional intake. Pretty much, I have ditched and switched every other personal care products, every other cleaning supply. I have been engaging in smart supplementation for years now, and continue to do that. And thank you to all of my friends who have made recommendations these past 9 months. So we have many microorganisms in our bodies, and what we put in and on our bodies may actually be disrupting those microbiomes. There's a lot of understanding and education and scientific research delving into the connection with aging and microbiome diversity. We know that as we age, our microbiome diversity actually decreases. And though we don't quite understand exactly what effect that has on our aging process, we do know that the good majority of elderly persons don't actually die of the diseases they've been diagnosed with so much as dying of some kind of an invasion of not so healthy microorganisms or pathogens. So cultivating a healthy microbiome requires consistent, proactive effort. If we take a look and compare our microbiome with a garden, for instance, we know that we need to water our garden, we need to feed it, fertilize it, we need to cultivate it, mulch it, we need to weed our garden continuously. My yard is reminding me of that need for continuous effort and weeding, and in order to harvest a good crop. Right? We know that the weeds will actually outgrow the plants that are producing for us if we don't mind our garden. And the same is true with our microbiome. We need to water our bodies. We need to nourish our bodies with wholesome foods. We need to provide smart supplementation because we know that we cannot get all of the micronutrients our bodies need with the food that we take into our bodies because of the tainting and GMOs and that. And we, as mindful as we can be, we're still going to be missing some of those vital nutrients. We know that we also need to cleanse our bodies and do periodic cleanses. doTERRA has a wonderful 30-day cellular cleanse that is not going to send you to the toilet day after day after day, but I recommend it highly, at least quarterly. We need to get quality rest and sleep. We need to manage our stress. We need to move our bodies. We need to de-stress our physical bodies consistently and always. All right, let's invite Yolanda in. And doTERRA has some amazingly safe, effective, pure, and potent products to help us do that. I especially am grateful for doTERRA's non-toxic products that allow me to reduce my toxic exposure with a mere ditch and switch. And there's not a product that doTERRA offers that our family does not utilize. And I'm so, so grateful. So improving our microbiome diversity really takes educating ourselves. There's new science coming out all the time, and there's lots to learn. And I would venture to say some experimentation that we need to do with our individual body. Okay. We need a proactive mindset and we need a willing heart and mind to go forward and make the changes needed. So usually in the microbiome discussions, we often focus on gut health, and it's so much more. Wherever we have a mucous membrane, we have a microbiome. And so we could actually refer to our body as having multiple or many microbiomes instead of a single microbiome in the gut. So our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, our windpipe, our lungs, our bladder, our genitals, our skin, etc., all have mucous membranes. And all of them have a microbiome that plays an important role in our innate immunity. When we take care of our microbiomes in our body, there is no room in the inn for pathogens or harmful bacteria to take residence, okay? Whether it be bacteria, viruses, spores, fungi, there's no room in the inn, and we want to make sure that is the case. So in September, doTERRA will launch a new probiome product line, and you want to do everything you can to be present in person and learn firsthand of the research and development that has gone into producing this new line of products that will address all these other microbiomes that we really haven't addressed so much up to this point. We've addressed a lot of gut microbiome, and we do have microbiome helps to help us with our gut. And I'm going to recommend that to you tonight, that you prep the soil for what is to come. All right, because if our soil is not prepped, we may not respond so well to the probiome product launch that is coming in September to support all these other microbiomes. Now, we've got many oils that support these microbiomes. We've got many oils that obviously the benefits of using essential oils is that they readily cross cell membranes and help put the body in balance when we do have intruders. But if we proactively approach our microbiomes to prevent having room in the inn, we won't have concern and those normal fears and worries that come up every year. I'm just going to say every year in the cold and flu season would be a concern, right? So diversity is key. And we know that the more diverse our microbiome is, it provides more protection for our immune system. So we've got to begin by prepping the soil. So I want to ask you a big loaded question. I want to ask you, what are you doing now that you have a list of other microbiomes to consider with the eyes, ears, nose, throat, lungs, bronchioles, obviously the stomach, the gut, the bladder, the genitals, the skin? What are you doing to preserve the microbiome in those areas? So I want to just bring that to the forefront, stop my share for a moment and just bring that to your attention and get some feedback from you on what are you personally doing to support all those various microbiomes in your body now that you know about them. Go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
I'm actually right now just finishing up the cleanse, doing the cleanse part. I'm on the probiotics and the DDR Prime 10-day window. So hopefully I'll be ready for it when it comes out.
There you go. And so how are you feeling, Robin? What has that cleanse done for you?
Well, every time I do it, my brain clears.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to like lift the fog and it gives me more energy and I sleep better. And especially once I get to the last 10 days at DDR Prime and the probiotics window really helps. The GX Assist, I can tell it's improving. It gets better as that 10-day window goes along, and then the last 10-day window really kind of puts it over the top.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? With that
Mhm.
supporting the healthy cells. So I
Yep.
got a message this morning from a friend of mine. She said, I asked her how she was doing. She said, I feel, and she has done 3 months worth of the 30-day cleanse. And she said, I am good. I feel so much better. My clothes are fitting better. I'm regrowing hair on my hairline, but the number on the scale is not changing. Should she be concerned about the number on the scale not changing just yet? Do you believe that it's going to change if she continues doing what she's doing?
Yeah, I think her body's just in the middle of resetting.
Yeah.
So it'll take care of that stuff and that's stored in her fat cells when it's more adept at pushing things out.
Yeah. So I shared with her, my brother has been using doTERRA's products for years now, and he hasn't done a cleanse, but he has been using all the supplements, including the MetaPower system, and he feels better. He looks better. He's off most all of his medications. I think he's down to a half dose of one medication right now, and the scale has not budged. On the other hand, the scale budged first, but it's taken 9 months of really focused effort on my nutritional intake and my wellness lifestyle habits to see the numbers in my labs begin to change. And so we're all very different individually. And so I promise the change is coming. And it takes consistency and proactive effort to bring that about. And so what else are you doing? Robin is doing the cleanse. What else are you doing? Any thoughts, Hannah, Yolanda, Dana, any thoughts on what else are you doing to preserve and protect your microbiomes?
I'll pop on here real quick. Something that I learned a long time ago was antibacterial hand soaps, hand sanitizers all destroy the microbiome of your skin, similar to how mouthwash will do that with the alcohol in it. So that's why I love doTERRA, because even before doTERRA, I had switched to just using like a natural type glycerin soap. Um, I do find when I go like out and about and you have to use the soap in the bathroom, it just kills my hands. So I try to put like On Guard sanitizer on afterwards to kind of moisturize and get that moisture back.
Very good point. Very good point.
So drying it opens you up to more things. So I don't know. That was just kind of something that I've been thinking about when we were talking about the mouthwash even yesterday.
I appreciate that. And so, you know, doTERRA has a mouthwash. So what makes it different? And the difference is it's not an alcohol-based mouthwash, right? What makes our hand sanitizer different than other hand sanitizers out there? You know, all through COVID, we would walk in any kind of a store or establishment. Forgive my little dings. You know what? I have forgotten how to turn that off. I may need somebody to help me with that. But I have realized, you know, first of all, I did not use their hand sanitizers. I've known for many years. In fact, I was a nurse in the hospital setting for 27 years, and my hands would be bloody and cracked and bleeding by the end of 3 days on the floor. And so now, as a doula, as I go to hospital births, I know full well that if I wash my hands continually with the hand soap in the hospital room, that I'm going to come home with cracked, bleeding, sore hands. And so I take my On Guard hand sanitizer and I use it frequently. I do wash my hands, just not every moment. If I'm in blood and body fluids, I wash my hands. And if I am not, I'm using the On Guard hand sanitizer. And so that's a really important factor to preserve the integrity of my skin. Yet I know that the hospital soap is disrupting the microbiome on my hands and skin. And so that is a valid reason. What else are we doing?
Hello. So I'm at the point where I've done a lot of like ditch and switch type of things. I started with doTERRA in November 2018. And honestly, I did it just because, oh, they smell good. You know, like the oils smell good at first, you know. And I like candles and, you know, stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, if I have something that's natural, why not, you know? But when I had my first experience with like an oil that actually like helped with like a health problem, I was like, okay, this is crazy. This can't be true, you know, whatever. It was frankincense, of course, the king of the oils. But I'm like, that's crazy, you know, whatever. But now I've been doing like since then, ditch and switch. I use an all-purpose cleaner, like I think it has tea tree and lemon and On Guard and stuff like that in it. Like when I clean the kitchen, and you know, I use the doTERRA hand soaps. I've changed out all the hand soaps in my house to be the doTERRA ones, the citrus bloom, because it's amazing. My husband, on the other hand, he of course believes it's all witchcraft and wizardry type of thing. You know, he doesn't believe in essential oils yet. So it's just it's probably gone a little slower than I would like for my household. For me, I feel like I've, you know, gotten the On Guard hand sanitizer and the soaps, and I use the body wash instead of like bubble bath or, you know, anything like that. But like I said, for me, it's gone a little faster. For him, we're still trying to figure it out. But he's like, I've let you change the hand soaps. Why can't I just use my Clorox wipes? And I'm like, because, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah. So I'm still working on him. But other than that, I've been doing like the ditch and switch. I've never done a cleanse. I'll be honest, never done a cleanse. But I take the supplements, most of the supplements. I don't take the LLVs just yet because I am on like prenatals and things, but I don't know which I would like to switch, but I don't know which would be a good like prenatal type of, you know, switch. And I'm vitamin D3 deficient, so I just take the little vitamin D3s. Like I think I need like 2,000 IUs a day or something like that. And I just learned today through the essential oil certification course that the Z Omega is a vitamin, it's a fish oil, I guess, essentially, but also a vitamin D3 thing. So I'm going to look into that now instead of the little pills. But I don't know how much, again, I don't know how much I need to take of it. So it's still kind of a shot in the dark sometimes, but you know, That's what I have you guys for. So
That's right. That's why you have a community to come to, right?
Yep.
Very good, Hannah. Thank you for that share. And probably all of us can relate to that husband being just a little bit not quite on board up front. I'm married to a pharmacist, Hannah. You might remember that from our class. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but it took me probably 8 years to get him on the Lifelong Vitality Pack. And now he won't be without it. Or he's been known to call me and saying, hey, are you going to be in Utah County today? So that I can bring him Lifelong Vitality Pack if he forgets it. I do order both the bottles and the sachets so he can walk out the door with sachets in his briefcase. And I actually probably need to check on that from time to time. Hey, do you have some sachets in your briefcase? And grab a few extra so that you don't get caught without that afternoon dose when your energy starts to slump. And so very good. Thank you for sharing that. And when it comes to a good prenatal vitamin, I'll be right up there with you. Lifelong Vitality Pack is a really good option. Okay. And I've had some really great results here just recently with a couple of my hypnobirthing couples. One of them actually messaged me privately with concerns for her emotional health and feeling a lot of depression. And she said, do you have some recommendations? And I said, I do. Another one came to me with violent third trimester vomiting and nausea and vomiting. And that's not pleasant. And I'll be honest with you, when we got down to tax, what had set that off, or rather, let me rephrase that. The timing of her glucose tolerance test in her pregnancy and the drinking of 40 grams or more of sugar was kind of a trigger that set that off for her again. And though in our very first class, she was talking about the glucose tolerance test, now it's really over. People talk negatively about it, and it's no big deal, blah, 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 blah. And then over the course of that class, she also shared that her nausea had returned. And as I was able to talk about when did that happen exactly, that nausea returned, she was the one that recognized that it was the same timing as that glucose tolerance test. And so even we have to question what's going on with our bodies, what are we putting in with our bodies? And this person also had been diagnosed with PCOS. This pregnancy that she was in was her 5th attempt in an intrauterine insemination. And so we have to be mindful of how our bodies are going to respond and be our own best advocates. Now, going back to both of these clients, I actually sampled with the Lifelong Vitality Pack for very different reasons. Would you agree? And both of them, the very next day, they felt better. Now, sometimes you can question that. Well, let's just see, right? I sampled them with enough vitality sachets to where they took a half dose for 3 days in a row and a full dose for 2 days in a row. Both of them were changed persons. Very different reasons. So when we support the body with smart supplementation that gives our bodies the micronutrients it needs to do its cellular processes and its healing job, we get a really great return with the Lifelong Vitality Pack. So then my question is this. If you're taking another supplement line, Hannah, you have to ask yourself, how long have I been taking this? And am I feeling better? And am I noticing an improvement in my wellness? And if the answer to that is no, then you might come to the realization that perhaps I might consider a change, right? And so you get to decide that yourself, okay? All right, let's move on just a little bit. Let me go back to my slide presentation here. Okay, so I think all of you participated really nicely in helping us get some ideas to prep the soil in our body so that we can protect the microbiomes. So now let's talk about what does doTERRA have for the gut health that really people have focused on with microbiome, the definition of microbiome. We often think of gut health. Sometimes we think of that gut-brain connection, and we do know that at least 70% of our immunity lies in the gut. Why is that? It's because of the microbiome in our gut. So if our microbiome is healthy, then we also have healthy immunity. Also, 90% of the serotonin levels, one of the main neurochemistries that keep us upbeat and happy and finding joy in life, more than 90% is produced in the gut. What causes that to be the case? It's the microbiome. So that's a really important thing to focus on. And doTERRA has a probiotic that has also a prebiotic. That's a double encapsulated product that actually gets to the gut where we need it to support that microbiome. We also have a lot of non-toxic products to support the microbiomes elsewhere on other mucosal membranes in our body. And a lot of those we've come at it with essential oils because we know that essential oils readily cross cell membranes and help put the body in balance and support the body's natural healing abilities when we do have intruders. And so now we're going to add to this PB Assist and the PB Assist Junior, as I talk about them tonight, and coming up in convention. And so I'm going to highlight these two products right now, and then we're going to talk about them. Now, the PB Assist has 6 strains of probiotic microorganisms or probiotics with about 6 billion colony forming units in this probiotic. Now, the fact that it is double encapsulated with the outer capsule having the fructooligosaccharides as a prebiotic to support the probiotic once that capsule is opened, the outer capsule opens in the stomach acids, the prebiotic is released, it supports the probiotic as it goes on down the intestinal tract. And we know that we don't need as large a dose of probiotics with this double encapsulated patented formula. Now, there's lots of probiotics out there, and there's lots of probiotics that are a whole heck of a lot more than 6 billion colony forming units. We also know that 40 to 70% of probiotics are destroyed in the stomach acids. So when we take a probiotic orally, if it does not have a protection that makes sure that it gets to the intestinal tract, we pretty much lose it in the toilet. Okay, it does us no good. And so that's a really big factor in doTERRA's dosage being not quite as large as many doses out there, but the fact that it gets to the intestinal tract is a big plus for this probiotic. Now, something that I just learned this week is that it's best to take this probiotic before meals. I have always recommended that we take it at bedtime. And for those of you who I have taught for these many years to take your probiotics at bedtime, perhaps that's not the best option. Now, let me back up just a moment with my blood glucose issues, as I have been using the MetaPower products, and in particular, the Metabolic Assist. That, along with additional berberine, has cut off the tops of my glucose spikes and thrown into my digestive tract undigested carbohydrates, which then the bacteria, good, bad, and otherwise, go stark raving mad and produce a lot of gas as they gobble up those free-floating carbohydrates. And so I started using, because I cannot take the Metabolic Assist or my berberine with doTERRA's Terrazyme. That's a food enzyme support that helps break down carbohydrates. I don't want to break down those free-floating carbohydrates. I want them gone so my blood sugar doesn't spike as high, thus reducing also the aging process. But I recognize that if I take this PB Assist with the Metabolic Assist, I get very nice results and not near as much gas, if any at all. Okay. And so that has been a huge plus. So by elimination and a great deal of experimentation, I have actually learned this for myself, that taking the PB Assist before meals with my Metabolic Assist has been incredibly helpful. So there you have it. And then this week on the calls that we've been having to introduce us to what's coming at convention, it was mentioned in the Q&A that the best time to take the probiotic would be before a meal. So forgive me for leading you astray, and let's consider the newfound understanding and information we have now to take those probiotics before a meal. Okay, so what are some reasons to take PB Assist? First of all, it promotes a healthy microbiome in our gut. Now, because it goes down the mouth into the esophagus and into the stomach and down through the bowels, and it actually gets the intestinal tract, we have an overall benefit throughout the digestive system of supporting the microbiome. It actually supports then our immune system, supports the health in our intestines and colon, so that we can not only eliminate well, but so that we have a really healthy immune system, and hopefully over time not allow room for other pathogens or other less than ideal microbes to take residence. All right. Okay. Now let's talk about the probiotics. Now, for all the time that we've had the PBSS Junior, it's actually been marketed for our children. But doTERRA recently came out and said that the PBSS are different probiotics than the PBSS Junior have different probiotics that are very kid friendly, that are different than what's in the PBSS. So for a long time, I have kept a box of PBSS Junior in my office. And the beauty of it is that it's a nice little sweet treat that has an incredible punch. And so I use that when I'm craving something sweet. I'll grab a PBSS Junior and have the benefits of a probiotic as my sweet treat. Okay. And so this is a great one for the kiddos. And I find that our kiddos need this. Now, as a former labor and birthing nurse, as working with childbearing women for all these almost 40 years, I have really promoted probiotics during pregnancy, and I've also promoted a healthy diet. And this is incredibly important. And just take a look at that bowl of food that is in this picture, and take a look at that and see what's in there that you might benefit from. And then let's talk about this PBSS Junior for a moment. This PBSS Junior has 5 billion colony forming units, 6 different probiotic strains that are different than the PB Assist Plus, and really supports digestive health, immune health for our children and for us as well. Now, what's changing as doTERRA brings out this new probiome product line is that they're going to quadruple the number of colony forming units in the PB Assist, and they're going to up the ante in the PB Assist Junior, maintaining the fact that it's got different probiotics, so that now both of these will be for anybody who can swallow a capsule or want to add to their microbiome. Okay. And so that's going to be big good news. Also, in this PBSS Junior, it's like a pixie stick. It tastes delicious. It is actually sweetened with xylitol. That is actually really good to support our microbiomes, but not good for your dogs. So do not leave these out for your dogs to get to, okay? But it looks like this. And the powder in this little pixie stick is actually not generic. It's coated. What am I looking for? What word am I looking for? It's coated so that it actually gets the intestinal tract as well. So we have a little tiny powder stuff in this that's actually coated to make sure it gets to the intestinal tract. What am I looking for? What is that word? It's not generic. It's
Is it esoteric?
No, it's
That's different. Encapsulated?
Yeah, it's encapsulated to make sure it opens in the intestinal tract, but it tastes good to our mouths and to our tummy.
We need Dana's brain.
Yeah, come on here, Dana, and let me know what word I'm looking for. But at any rate, it's a medical term that I've used for 100 years and just forgot. And so this is a really good thing. So I love giving my children, when they were younger, I would give them the chewable vitamins, the IQ Omegas. And then when these came out, these were kind of a dessert for taking their IQ Omega and their chewable vitamins if they didn't love the flavor. I find the chewable vitamins quite tasty with its watermelon flavor, and the IQ Omega is flavored with the wild orange essential oil, and I find that really palatable. But after a while, my boys did not like it, and this was the treat that they got after they took those. And so that's a really great way to utilize that in your with your little children. Okay. All right. So creating a healthy biome matters, and our lifestyle choices matter. What we put in and on our bodies is important, and we need to be intentional and also consistent with what we expose our bodies to. So I want to just bring to the attention, I want you to just unmute yourself and talk to me a little bit about how do you eat so that you are providing yourself with a nutritious diet to support a healthy microbiome? What are some ideas you have that you might share with us tonight on how you can be intentional about your nutritional intake? Why don't you just unmute yourself for a moment and share that?
I'll be honest, my eating habits are not very good. Not I say I'm a picky eater, yes, but for me it's kind of been like since I was little, like a texture thing. So like it's not just me being picky because I don't want to eat it or try it. It's I'm picky because the texture's funky. Like mushrooms, for instance, had them, to me they feel slimy and just like some weird texture, right? But to others, they're like, they're not slimy, they're this, I'm like, I can't do it though. Like I just can't. I've tried them, can't do it. So I'll be honest, I'm not very good at eating healthy foods, I guess. Like salad, for instance, I cannot get over lettuce, cannot do it. So I'm interested to see what, because I don't really have much, what you guys say are good ways to kind of maybe combat that, or I've heard chia seeds are good though for, I don't know if it's the gut microbiome or if it's just in general, but I've heard chia seeds are great, and like kind of those what's that word, older foods, not like fermented, I mean, but
Yes.
like chia seeds, it's like an
Ancient.
old-fashioned food, yeah, something like that, like an ancient grain or something.
And seeds, absolutely. Yeah. And so
So that's
chia,
all I know.
very good. You know what? It's funny, Hannah, that you say mushrooms because I now have a new daughter-in-law that is also about food textures. And she can't eat some foods, including mushrooms, because they're slimy.
Yes,
Right on the
see,
wavelength as you are, Hannah. And it's been a really interesting comment. And my son that's married to her is like, mushrooms are really good for you. Well, on my whole food, plant-based, mostly vegan diet, mushrooms have taken the place of meat for my vegetable dishes. And I often buy mushrooms to saute with my vegetables. And so that's been an interesting thing for her. And she has actually tried some of my mushrooms in my, for instance, zucchini pizza. She doesn't love it, but she's actually tried it now and she's found that it's doable, but not very palatable for her just yet.
Yeah, like I've heard, like you said, they takes the place of meat. Like I've heard getting like one of those big like portobello mushrooms or whatever, and using it as like a steak or something, like
A
seasoning like that.
hamburger. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around that just yet.
Yep.
So to me, I'm like a meat and potatoes type of like person. So, but and I say meat, but not fish. Like I don't eat anything that comes from the water. It freaks me out. So,
Yep. Yep. So there's
yeah.
a good point, when you don't eat fish and you need those omega oils from fish, there's a good point for your chia seed and your flax pudding. However, as I say, chia seed or flax pudding, it might be a texture for you and it might be slimy if you do
I've
it.
heard that too. So I just have to probably just try it, and because I don't know what it's supposed to be like. To me, that the chia seeds look hard. So why would it be slimy? But
They are hard, but when you mix them with fluid, they are an expander. And for instance, I use chia pudding or flax pudding as an egg substitute.
oh,
It
okay.
has the same consistency as egg white.
Okay. I'm not mad about egg whites. Like if they're cooked, I'm not mad about it. I've never had them raw, but
Very good.
okay. All
And
right.
they're very healthy. They're loaded, absolutely positively loaded with omega oils. And that's incredibly helpful for you and I with our hormone disruption with PCOS.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I highly recommend that you consider doing a little more play. I would use them as an egg substitute in my baked goods where you don't get the sliminess, right? Instead of putting eggs in your muffins, consider doing flax pudding or chia seed pudding. And all it's very simple. You take about a third of a cup of chia seeds or flax seed and mix a cup of water with it, put it in your blender and mix it wet, or just let it soak and shake it, shake it, shake it until it mixes up. I make now chia pudding for a dessert. And when you add a little bit of pure maple syrup, or I prefer fresh berries, and blend it up, it is delightful. And it's kind of the replacement for sorbet or ice cream.
Yeah, I like that. I wrote down, like I've been taking notes, so I wrote that down. Chia seeds is in place of eggs and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna have to get with you and get some like recipe ideas. I don't know where to go from there, but
I'll guide you on that. Okay. And so
thank
that's
you.
a really great consideration to consider. That's kind of duplicate, right? To really support our hormonal balance. And we do know that when the microbiome is out of whack, it does disrupt our hormone balance. So that's a really important thing to consider. Okay. So then with regards to the food, let me tell you, okay, so here's my dinner tonight. Okay. It's a bowl full of veggies with some hummus. And my children did not like hummus. They did not like legumes. But guess what? Mama eats 3 times a day. And if mama's making the food, there's legumes in almost everything, if not everything I make. I even have a recipe for ice cream, a plant-based whole food substitute for ice cream that has no dairy in it and starts with bean juice. After you cook your beans from scratch, that's the juice you pour off of your beans, and we soak the different nuts and dates in that bean juice, and then we blend it all together, and that becomes our fudge sickle. And so there's a lot of things we can do to make some changes. And so, yeah, when mama makes the food and my boys love it ready-made, ready to go, no effort, right? I have an almost 19-year-old that has eaten everything I've made. And there have been moments when I'm like, dang it, that was my 3-day food supply and it's gone. And I got to start over with the food prep, right? And so it's been really fun, but it makes a difference. And now that my numbers have finally come down and my son's numbers are equal to my numbers now, what I experienced with my doctor today when she gave me my lab results, my sons are at that pre-diabetic level at the age of almost 19. We're in trouble, right? And so I'm grateful that he's been eating everything mama makes. Now, where I can have only one date without it spiking my blood sugar, this boy will have 6 or 8 dates, and I guarantee you it's spiking his blood sugar. And so it just takes moderation. It does take a great deal of experimentation. And so I started to share that about the legumes used to produce a lot of gas for me. Not so much anymore. It doesn't even bother me. And my boys now are eating hummus almost every single day. And so that's been a big change. And so my thought is, you know, when I was raising my little children, when my boys were little, I should say, we as parents model what they eat. We prepare the food. We get to model what they eat. And so we get to set the tone for what they reach for. And I would have, for instance, I did a lot of sprouts. And I would have sprouts sitting out on the island, and they didn't like them. But they would see mama munching on them all day long. And pretty soon they began to try them. And initially, when you try sprouts, they're not very tasty. But if you take a little bit of those every day, they actually move from a bitter to a very sweet taste. And our palate changes and our palate expands. So all of these things help improve the microbiome in our gut. We know that fermented foods help improve the microbiome in our gut. So I want to ask you a question. What fermented foods do you ingest on a regular basis? Anybody?
Apple cider vinegar, does that count?
Yes, it does. And
Okay.
apple cider vinegar is a really easy do. How do you do it, Robin?
Just to drink it or to make it?
Drink it.
Drink it.
You
I
make
just
it?
put,
You make your own apple cider vinegar?
yeah, I have started making my own apple cider vinegar. It's kind of easy. To drink it, I just put like a tablespoon, I think it's a tablespoon. It's like 1 glug into a cup, and then I fill it up with water, and I just kind of sip on that. And it's almost like it's sour, so it's kind of lemony when it's diluted like that. And you really want to make sure you dilute it so you don't have that much acid in your mouth on your teeth. And then to make it, you just have some organic apples. You can cut them up with the seeds and the peel and everything. Put them in a jar about 3/4 of the way up. Cover it with some distilled water and some sugar. And I don't have the recipe off the top of my head, but I think it's 1 tablespoon of sugar per cup of water. And you just cover your apples and you just let them sit. You got to kind of keep stirring it and keeping the apples underneath the water, or they could get moldy on the top until they're fermented and stuff like that. But it'll grow like a solid layer of the mother on top. It's kind of like gelatinous blob on top, which you can take out and then reuse on your next batch too. And then that keeps the apples underneath the water. You don't have to keep dunking them. But you just let that sit for like a month or whatever. You strain it out. And then you let it sit in another bottle for a while, a couple of months. And then it already tastes a bit like vinegar when you get the apples out of it, but it kind of ages the longer it lets it sit.
Mm-hmm.
And it tastes way better than the Bragg's. I will tell you that. It's sweeter than the Bragg's vinegar.
Very good.
Mhm.
Very. So that's an idea. What other fermented foods do we eat on a regular basis? Does anybody do sauerkraut?
I
Mhm.
make it too.
Does anybody do kimchi?
Haven't tried kimchi yet.
You know what? When my husband and I were first married, we lived in the University Village at the Utah at U of U. Oh my gosh, University of Utah. Good grief, where my brain. And we had a neighbor upstairs from us that made kimchi all the time, and it smelled so awful. Hannah, I've never delved into kimchi, but I have played around with other fermented vegetables. I really like peppers and carrots. Now, Jade has a really great recipe for kimchi, Jade Balden. And so she's shared her recipe. I don't know where it is in the past, and I keep planning on making it. For instance, I had some of what's the Chinese cabbage called? I had some of that in my produce basket the other day. I ended up using it in a saute, but that's a really great cabbage to chop up really fine and put into kimchi. And so there's some really easy, and you can just Google kimchi, but Jade Balden has a really great recipe that's very effective. And so consider, how can I get more fermented fruits and vegetables in my diet? And that's going to produce more microbiome. A lot of people make their own, what's that drink that starts with a K?
Kombucha.
Yeah. I was just about to ask about that, but I've never had it.
Yeah.
But I've heard it's very alcoholic though.
Yes, and so you can make it with water, or you can make it with something else. I think it's, what is it? I think it's with alcohol, but you can make it with water, and then it's not alcoholic, but it's still a fermented. And
Uh-huh.
process of fermentation, alcohol is produced.
Right. I knew that, but I was wondering like how can you not get drunk off of it, basically? You know, like in a way.
It's not that much. It's got
Okay.
the alcoholic content to it, but it's not so much like you're going to get tipsy off of it. It's like maybe 1% or 0.5%, I think.
Mhm.
It's like a side effect. It's not the end purpose of it, so there's not real high. But they
Okay.
have to put that on there because, people of religious regions don't want to consume it, so they need to know
Right.
on there. So
Is matcha considered a fermented food?
I don't think so. I think that's just like a kind of a tea.
Okay, because I had one time, like a long time ago, there was this pineapple matcha drink at Starbucks, and I'm all about pineapples. So I'm like, why not? Let's try it. I did not like it. It
Mhm.
it was, I don't even know what it tasted like. It was just weird. I didn't like it. But
Very
it's
green.
Starbucks. Yeah, it's Starbucks.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how true to a true matcha that was anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Dana might know what kind of tea it is. I think it just might be like a form of green tea, but I'm not sure. That might
Gotcha.
be why it tastes so green.
Yeah, it was like almost like
Yeah.
eating grass.
Yeah, matcha is a type of green tea, but they process the leaves different also. To me, like, I'm not a fan of green tea, but matcha is a whole different level of green tea. And it's a little bit grittier to me because there's more of it and it's all finely powdered.
Yeah.
So it's not like my favorite thing, but there's a lot of health benefits to it. And it's a really good antioxidant with a lot of flavonoids in it. So, maybe not a daily thing, but if you incorporated it, but it's not a ferment.
Okay. Okay.
Very good. Who loves to make their own yogurt, their own plain yogurt?
Haven't tried that yet.
Okay, that's really doable too. Also considered a fermentation product. That's why they tout a lot of yogurt is good for you to increase the microbiome. But what's the problem with yogurt?
The store-bought stuff has sugar in it usually.
Lots of
And
sugar.
it's not real clean
But-
dairy either.
And the store-bought stuff also has a great deal of chemicals added. And so it would be best if you made your own yogurt. Now, if you have an Instapot, go into your Instapot recipe book. There is a fabulous recipe for making your own yogurt, and you can do that in an Instapot. It holds the temperature at a steady temperature, and then you can actually make your own yogurt. You do have to have a start, and sometimes you could take a start. Your start could be from either a packet of the PB Assist Junior or two. Patricia Turner on our team actually does her yogurt with the PB Assist Junior. I can't remember if she uses 1 or 2 packets, or you can take a part of plain Greek yogurt with no sugar added and use that as your start for your own plain yogurt. And then you can get off to and make your own. Okay. So there's lots of things we can learn and continue to learn to have more fermented food in our bodies that will support our microbiome. Okay. So be creative, maybe do a little bit of research and Google, what fermented foods might I try next, right? Or recipes for fermented foods. Okay. And so, all right, very good. So yes, Robin brought up the fact that this is on BOGO today. Now this is on BOGO for 2 days only, or while supplies last. I promise you this will sell out. And doTERRA is doing us a favor here. They're helping us prep the soil in preparation for what's to come. You would be wise to prep the soil so that your body can then receive the probiome products that are coming in September. Okay, so take advantage of this BOGO, this PB Assist, get some more if you're at all able, and see what you can do to prep the soil so that you do much better. Dana says, I drink apple cider vinegar almost daily. You know what? I'm really good about drinking apple cider vinegar when I'm doing the cleanse. I drink it every morning, and it's just getting back into the habit of doing that daily. It's a really good habit to start your day with a warm, I always did warm glass of water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar to actually prep the digestive system for receiving food, but also to help with the pH of the digestive system. And so that's a really good thing to do. And then Dana talks about Kavita fermented coconut water, and I'm not the least bit familiar with that. So there's lots of products out there to help us support our microbiome. And we do know that more is coming. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen, let me bring back my PowerPoint for just a second. We're almost done though. Let me, how many of you have seen more talk of mushrooms lately? There's been a tremendous talk of mushrooms.
Yes. Debbie, we have the mushrooms in our Mito2 Max. It's a good stamina blend.
Yep. And so
There's
that's
mushrooms in that?
I did
Yeah.
not know that. I'm
I
gonna go
take
look
that
at
every day.
label.
Yep.
I'm still ingesting them even though I didn't want to, I guess.
They're not
ingest.
slimy when they're dried out in powder.
Right, exactly.
Now, also, if anybody of you remember, if you've been around long enough, for the adaptogenic hot chocolate that came out
Amazing.
at Christmas time,
Yeah,
you know
that
what?
stuff was so good.
I actually have 1 package left, and it's probably expired. I don't care, but actually a really nice microbiome supportive hot chocolate, if it can be, right? You got to watch the sugar intake with supporting the microbiome, because it can take it the wrong direction. But the adaptogenic hot chocolate was full of several, I want to say either 3 or 5 different kinds of mushrooms. And so I suspect in the new probiome products, they're going to take the PB from the PB Assist and the PB Assist Junior, and it's now going to stand for probiome, but we're not getting rid of these just yet. They will over time be phased out as people. Why would they phase them out slowly? Because if we don't prep the soil, we probably won't receive the probiome products well. Okay, prep the soil. There's a hint for you so that you feel good and you're ready to actually take into your body the new probiome products. Okay, so We want to be intentional and consistent in our daily habits. So it really does begin with making sure we attend to the wellness lifestyle from the foundation up, putting good food and nourishing food into our bodies, smart supplementation, making sure we're digesting well, then moving our bodies and paying attention to metabolic health. The MetaPower products are phenomenal help for our metabolism and to help undo the issues of metabolic health. Now, I'm right at the forefront when you're diagnosed with blood glucose issues, you've got metabolic disease. When you're diagnosed with PCOS, you've got metabolic disease. Any thyroid issues, any adrenal issues, any hormone disruption, you've got metabolic disease. And so we do have to tend to all of those things, all right? And so I think that's all of my slides there. Yep. And so let's go back there for just a moment. So we want to take the prebiotics and the probiotics and then avoid any harmful, I have on here harmful oils. I'm talking vegetable oils, not essential oils. Okay. If you're using doTERRA essential oils, they're not harmful, but I'm talking vegetable oils. We've got to be really mindful of the fats we put into our bodies. And largely on my diet, my doctors have wanted me to get away from adding fat. And so I usually saute my vegetables dry, but as I start them dry, of course, vegetables have lots of water in them. And so adding the onions, adding the mushrooms to the pan, along with my vegetables, creates its own juice and they are not dry any longer, okay? And then taking, of course, focusing on essential fatty acids. So those are really critical factors to supporting our microbiome. Lots more seeds and nuts, raw nuts and seeds, the chia seed, the flax seed, of course, your sesame seed, your hemp seed, your pumpkin seeds are a really good thing to take into your bodies. Those are all going to be really helpful in supporting a good microbiome. And if you'll just take a moment to look up and research, what can I do to support my microbiome? You'll be surprised at our discussion tonight and what you can do that's really simple and not expensive to support your microbiome. And I'm going to encourage you to make a greater effort to do that. And so any last minute contributions, questions that you might have as we finish up before we go into our live Q&A?
I had a question really quick.
Hannah.
So when you were talking in the beginning and just now about I think you said there's either not really a test for the microbiome or maybe they're just starting out with it, whatever. So I was thinking of I think it's Everlywell or something that commercial I see sometimes, and it talks about like see what your like food sensitivity test or whatever. Like for instance, I know I'm lactose intolerant. I don't care though. I eat all the cheese and I don't drink milk like I used to because it just upsets my stomach. But is like a test like Everlywell, like a food sensitivity test, is that considered kind of like a microbiome test or not really?
Well, that's an interesting comment, Hannah. And actually, Robin, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't really know too much about those tests and how they work. I think what it measures is how well it breaks down possibly in your system, which would in turn tell you whether or not you can digest it. Dana might know a better way of explaining it, but I haven't really looked into those tests to see what they do exactly.
One thing I will say, Hannah, is that when we have an intolerance, there's a gap in our microbiome.
Because I heard it was natural to be lactose intolerant. Like when you're a baby, not really, because you need the mother's milk and, whatever. But like I heard as an adult, it's pretty much a natural thing. I don't know if that's true to be lactose.
I grew up on a farm and drank whole raw cow's milk and had no issues. But when they pasteurize it and homogenize it, it's a very different subject. And they cook out the natural enzymes that occur in raw milk. And so then we don't have anything to break it down. And so you are absolutely right. All of us are pretty much lactose intolerant. And with regards to a mother's milk for a baby and cow's milk, two very different substances.
Yeah.
So, cow's milk was made for the calves. Mama's milk was made for the babies. And so we could look at it in that mind. But Dana, I know you have something to share. Will you pipe in here?
Well, they've come a long ways in the food sensitivity testing. So they have all the IG factors. So there's like IgG, IGF. I don't even know all of them. Like, you
What
know,
does that mean? Like IG, what is that like?
so it's your immunoglobulin,
Oh,
and I
okay.
can't remember like what all the additional letters stand for, but and it has to do greatly with your gut lining. And so like when you're the junctions in between each cell in your intestinal tract, when they get gaps in them, that's what's called leaky gut. So your everything that's in your digestive tract goes out whole into the bloodstream instead of being broke down. And that's where you're going to build up these um, basically, it's kind of like an antihistamine effect. That's not the right word, but that's really what you're doing. And your body will take those food particles and recognize them as a foreign invader. And so you can develop a sensitivity to dairy or eggs, or, you know, the list goes on. And especially for people who have like the open gut barrier and then they eat the same thing day in and day out, you can actually develop a food intolerance to something that once was a safe food. It becomes an unsafe food because you've ate the same thing too long and you didn't deal with your gut lining. So the tests are much more advanced than what they used to be, and I think they're more accurate. Back in the day, I had them done 40 years ago, and it told me nothing. Where I went and had homeopathic testing done and left with 30 things that I needed to manage. So it's come a long ways because I've had other friends who've had good results from it. But again, I always caution people, okay, it's safe to eat rice. So then you eat rice 3 times a day for 3 months in a row. That's not the way to do it because eventually rice won't be safe.
Okay.
And that actually steals from our diversity, right? From our microbiome diversity. And so we do have to be wise. In fact, in our call this week, Dr. Osguthar talked about the fact that the good majority of us get all our nutrition from about 12 plants and about 5 animal products.
I saw that on the call. I was like, that's true though. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
And so we really need to improve our diversity in what we eat, right? That's a really big factor. And so venture out a little bit and see what you can add to what you're taking in. And for you, Hannah, if it's a texture thing, see what you can do to change up. Now, I actually, as I cook, and those who know me know this about me well, that I really do a lot with colors. I cook by the rainbow, or I food prep now. I don't do a lot of cooking with my whole food plant-based diet in dietary intake, but I do a lot with colors, and I literally pull out, I don't know if I can pull up any pictures. Let me just see. I literally pull out of my fridge all the vegetables that I have on hand. And as I do that, I get a different experience every time. I don't think this is an experience, but let me see if I can find some photos here. I just shared these now. They will be live soon on my website. But yeah, I don't know why my phone and my, let's see what this is. Well, here's an idea. Here's an idea. And I always add a couple of different colors of legumes. Okay. So this is something I started to make for Instagram, but I literally pull everything out of my fridge and I want to make sure all the colors of the rainbow are represented. Can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure. So I literally, every time I make it, it's different. And once in a while, like this morning for breakfast, I actually ate this, what I call cowboy caviar. I don't know why it got that name, but it's just a bunch of cut up vegetables. And sometimes I will add green olives because I absolutely love green olives. And it's a fermented product, right? Love green olives. And so, and especially the Costco ones with the jalapenos and garlic in them. Then you've got some added support. And I love, 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 love spicy. And so then I added a couple of different colors of legumes. So in this particular picture, you see the kidney beans and the black beans. I probably every day I eat chickpeas in some form, whether I roast them in my air fryer and have little crunchies, or whether I make them into hummus or whatever I have is really important, right? And so I eat a lot of chickpeas, and I'm finding that the research is showing that chickpeas or all the legumes have some really great medicinal, that's not nutritional benefits. And so I'm learning more. My system is now used to them. I'm tolerating them much more. My family's starting to eat more legumes. And even in a conversation this morning with my husband, who is a complete carnivore, he even said, I think we're all liking legumes a lot better because we're eating them and developing a tolerance to them, right? And so we're doing a lot. And so yesterday I made what I would call Spanish rice, but the hamburger, there was no hamburger. There was instead kidney beans and black beans in the Spanish rice. Okay. And so at any rate, there's a lot of goodness we can do to really beef up our nutritional intake and make it much more healthy to support our microbiome. So think variety, lots of colors, and venture out and try something new. One thing that I've never really enjoyed is Brussels sprouts. And in a conversation with Dana just on Monday, I think, her daughter-in-law has a great way to prepare Brussels sprouts. And I've had them one time at a restaurant called Tuscany here in the Salt Lake Valley. And that's where I'm living, is in Draper, Utah. And I went to a restaurant and they had done some kind of broiling the Brussels sprout with balsamic vinegar, and the outside of the Brussels sprout, it made it flour open. And not only they were incredibly delightful to look at, it's like, how did you do that? Because of the way they roasted them, but they were incredibly tasty. And it's the only time in my entire life that I actually enjoyed Brussels sprouts. And it sounds like Dana's daughter-in-law has a way to cook them where I could actually enjoy Brussels sprouts. And my doctor's been trying to get me to eat Brussels sprouts for many reasons, but there's a way to where I'm going to try something new with Brussels sprouts and eat them, because you can actually buy Brussels sprouts in a big bag. And I look at that and I almost want to gag, but you know what, taking an opportunity to learn how to like different foods is going to be advantageous. So we get outside of the 12 things we always buy and eat from, right? And so I think that's a wise thing. Even though when I take a look at my cowboy caviar, I'm probably getting a really good nutritional benefit from all the different colors and variety that I have in there. But from, there's certain times that I make it and it's got the same thing in it. Now, this last time I made it, I was like, I need more green. And I just cut up some spinach. Right. I didn't have any cilantro on hand. I love cilantro. I always add cilantro if I have it. But it does go out of season and when it gets really hot. And so, you know what? I always cook for the rainbows. There's my recommendation to you. So thank you for joining us tonight. I hope this has been really, really helpful. And though I'm going to end the recording, I hope that those who watch the recording will recognize that we have talked about what is the microbiome, why is it important, and ways that we can support it. And so I really hope this has been helpful for you tonight. And stick around. We're going to do a live Q&A after. So take the opportunity to comment in the comments below on this recording and hit that bell so you can be notified of all our new videos. Bye-bye for now.